facing head-on the emotions beneath the surface as we bridge from an old world of confusion and lack to a beautiful new world of freedom, abundance, and love with straightforward truth and inspired hope is what you'll find on the Charla Anderson Show. Collector and connector of fascinating people. And everyone is fascinating. Here's your host, Charla Anderson.
Well, good, beautiful day, you beautiful, beautiful souls. This is Charla Anderson, host of the Charla Anderson Show, collector and connector of fascinating people. And everyone is fascinating, especially you, and especially this amazing guest I have today, Sonya Atkins-Goodman. We're going to get to know her and learn all about something about HR and also about forgiveness. And I cannot wait to introduce you to her. But first, we're going to do our little breathing exercise. We're going to take this little 22-second mini vacation, and we're going to breathe in calm for 7 seconds. We'll hold for 4, and then breathe out gratitude. And probably should do that multiple times a day to, bring in that be still and know some quiet into our moments. So here we go. Let's take 7 seconds of calm coming in. Here we go. Hold. Release. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's just get grounded a little bit, right? So this our crazy world, we're so techie connected, but we're not necessarily touching our, connecting to ourselves enough, perhaps. So I love to do that little exercise just to get me centered, and maybe you too. So anyway, today, my guest, Sonya, from Houston area, south of Houston. I was born and raised in Houston, so I'm familiar with Alvin. And Sonya Atkins-Goodman. Thank you for being my guest today. I'm so excited. We have a mutual friend in common, Alan Mikolai, and we'll talk probably about him a little bit. Please just tell us a little bit about who you are in this world, and then we'll talk about what you do.
Well, thank you so very much, Charla, for having me on your show today. So who am I? I'm an HR professional of over 30 plus years. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I'm like many women in this world that's juggling their careers and their personal lives. I have a lot of different circumstances that have occurred in my life that make it a little bit more easier for me to maybe relate to other women who may have found themselves in some of those similar circumstances. I'm also a sister, a very proud sister I have a little sister I'm very proud of. And that's just really who I am. I'm a singer-songwriter as well, in addition to being an HR professional of over 30 years. And I have now owned my own business after spending a lot of time in the corporate world.
Well, I don't know anybody that doesn't have a lot of plates spinning, wearing a lot of different hats, and you've got a lot of them. And when I learned that you're, really the forgiveness message, which is one of my biggest messages, right? So the forgiveness message, how do you relate that into an HR, human resources, for people who may not know that term? That career is interesting and has a lot of facets. And so how do you integrate this forgiveness message into HR? And then maybe we'll talk about how you found your forgiveness.
That's such a great question. And when I look at it in terms of forgiveness professionally, we talk about leadership, we talk about leading with empathy. And empathy is, in a lot of ways, understanding, putting yourself into an aspect of being able to relate to others. So when I think about my story of holding on to unforgiveness for a good number of years personally, and how I've translated that over into the HR profession, my job is oftentimes to help managers, people leaders, to navigate that relationship with their teams. People disappoint us. People disappoint us personally, they disappoint us professionally. So, how do we handle that? And when we hold on to that unforgiveness, whether it's personally or professionally, I have found that it really hurts the clarity of mind. So it's very important as a leader, as a professional, and this is how I do it in human resources when I'm having these conversations, is to say, look, even our as HR professionals, we need to learn not to hold on to those grudges. We have to learn how to push forward. Yes, something disappointed us. Yes, something happened. Maybe we didn't get the promotion that we wanted. Maybe an employee disappointed us with not meeting the expectations, and that affected the entire team. And yes, there may be some things that we have to do as consequences to that. But when you just harbor on the hurt part of it, you can't move forward. So we have to deal with the fact that we've got to push forward, move forward with that forgiveness so that we can regain that clarity of mind and really focus on what matters with the situation. I really like how you asked me the question earlier, how we take and apply forgiveness professionally, and how do I apply that to my HR profession. And throughout my many years of working in corporate, I could see the demise of where leaders would just hold on to that, and they didn't lead with empathy. And because they didn't lead with empathy, that created such a toxic work environment for the employees. And with that, what we have now, when we live in a day and age where we need top talent, and it's harder to hold on to top talent because the quit rate is so high and people quit quietly now without giving you those indications. It's so very important as leaders to take a look at ourselves and to manage our emotions. It's very important as a leader to make sure that we have that emotional intelligence, that emotional well-being is not only important for ourselves, but it's also important for all of those that are around us, both in the personal and the professional space.
So, empathy. I do believe our world has changed enough that this top-down management doesn't fly anymore. And if you don't have compassion and empathy, or if you are the big stick, do it my way or the highway, I don't believe that's working at all anymore, or very seldom. And you're never going to have happy people if you do that, right?
Right. Exactly. And I look at it from the standpoint of being an overcomer. How can you be a business that also overcomes? Well, you have to take a look internally first. I often say to businesses, how can you expect someone else to meet your expectations when you yourself cannot even identify who you are? And then if there are things that you are expecting of others that you don't even expect for yourselves. And that's very true as leaders. We have to lead that example. We are in a position. What is leadership? The term of a leader, you're an influencer. So you can either influence on the negative or you can influence on the positive. And do I want to influence others by showing how I harbor bad feelings and I harbor this emotional and this unforgiveness that becomes such a toxic trait that it really creates the toxicity of the work landscape. And it's the same thing in our lives as well, with the people that we love, with our spouses, with our children, with our friends. It's the same thing. Instead of saying, okay, yes, this hurt my feelings, it was emotionally damaging, and I'm not taking away from there are some certain things in life that unfortunately happen, but we can either play the victim or we can play the victor. So in a situation where something has disappointed you, how can you be the victor in that? I often say that the windshield that we look out of is a much broader view than the rear view mirror that we're looking in. What is the rear view mirror designed to do, Charla? It's designed to, we do occasionally glance back, but that's so that we can see if there's any danger or anything coming up. But we're not going to keep our focus on that, because if we do, we won't see what's right out in front of us. So harboring that unforgiveness keeps us from seeing the things that are right in front of us, and the good things in life that we can reach out and achieve.
Focusing on what's behind us is not going to get us very far. I have something that you brought up that reminds me. I have two definitions of customer service. There's two types of customer service people, right? And this is, I observed this as a flight attendant all those years ago, and you're in the line and you go, not that one, please. You can feel it. But it's the empathy, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. How can I make a difference? My hands are tied, or there's no flights, or whatever it is, I'm so sorry. I wish I could help or do more, but let me give you a hug. I don't know. It's something, empathy. Right. And the other side is called the enforcer.
Yes.
And the enforcer, I mean, really, they only have power. I feel like they're not happy people, and the only power they have in their life in that moment is over you, and you remind them of their ex, so you're out of luck, right? Yes. So does that relate to some of the things you're trying to promote in your space?
Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad you brought up that word, enforcer, because I think that is a perfect analogy or definition of how the general population views human resources. And we are trying so very hard right now in the global essence of human resources to change that by leading with empathy. One of the larger things that we're talking about right now in human resources is just civility in the workspace. And this is the president of SHRM, Johnny Taylor. This is something that he's talking about. And, where do we start with civility in the workspace? We start with that empathy. So being the enforcer, so many times HR is looked at as being the enforcer. I think about all of the negative, terms that maybe people have used, the slang terms that they've used for human resources. But when you look at what human resources is supposed to be, it's strength. What do you do with the collaboration of strength of the humans, and how can you be that resource? We have a saying here at my company. It's called bringing the human back to human resources, because we do live in such a day and age where everything is technical. We're moving forward with this, with digital, with AI, that it's very important that we do not forget the aspect and the essence of what we're doing, and that is to be a resource for the humans, and also be an engaging HR professional. So not so that people just see you as the enforcer. I would rather for it to be as people see us as an influencer of doing the right thing. And sometimes doing the right thing is very tough. And sometimes we have to have, as HR professionals, those very tough conversations with employees, but we also have to have them with managers. And we, as HR professionals, sometimes have to realize we're not the ones that get to make the final decision. But that's why it's so very important for us to engage with our department leaders, to engage with the people, so that they don't see us as the enforcer, but they see us as an influencer in a positive manner.
Great. So I think that's so needed, and it's great that you personally have chosen your path. Go ahead and the name of your company. So I don't think we've said that. So people will put it right here, how people can find you and get in touch with you and your company name.
Well, thank you. It is Human Edge Resource Solutions. And we are based out of the greater Houston area, but our clientele span from everything from the healthcare to the retail to manufacturing, oil and gas, all of those. Our experience here combined with the team is over 50 years of HR experience over multiple industries. And I think that experience is what makes us very strong in the ability to understand the needs that our clients have and helping them and their employees to get to the goals that they want to do. We also help individuals as well as career coaches. But Human Edge Resource Solutions, and you can go to our website and you'll get to read a little bit about the company and some of the things that we do. We're very actively involved in our community as well.
I noticed that you're in a lot of chambers, you do a lot of networking, but humanedgeresourcesolutions.com, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, I'm a Zig Ziglar legacy certified trainer. I got to know Zig Ziglar, and I know his family. Tom, Cindy, and Julie Ziglar are incredible people, and they wanted to create, pass on his legacy. So I went and became a legacy certified trainer. One of the pieces of their, that they promote and the Ziglar philosophy is helping companies, maintain or retain and good employees and have good employee relationships, of course. But they've got this there's a zombie talk, and it's like basically the zombies are just, showing up just to get the
Right.
paycheck, just to get, and he's got a
Exactly.
10 passenger bicycle with the first 3 people are pedaling. The next 4 people are coasting, and the last 3 people are pedaling backwards with parachute, so though you identifying that type of environment. But what I feel like they were really key on, really good on, was figuring out that if you as a manager, as you as a leader can find out what their dreams are, go find out every single person's dream and then help
Yes.
them reach that dream.
Yes. That
You
is
might
going
lose
to
that
be
employee
imperative.
ultimately, but you'll never lose the loyalty factor. You might, and you will be a sought after place to work. I'd love
Right.
to
It's
connect
very
you too with
interesting.
one of my friends, Stacy Wright. She has created a business up here. She's got a manufacturing plant, a manufacturing business, and she has a nonprofit called Heart Profit.
Okay.
And she believes in exactly what you're trying to do. She's like, their environment, they've got people in a waiting list to come to work for them up in this little town, because they've got on-site childcare. They have, she knows that mental health right now is a huge topic and a huge issue. And so they have weekly times that people get together and can share and open up, and she's made it a very, very friendly environment in a work space. And so I'd
Yes.
love for you to get to know her, and maybe you guys
I would love to get to know anyone that you know, Charla. That's what this is about. It's about getting out. It's so much more than just networking. It's really about building those relationships and coming together. Even if you don't physically live in the same community, that sense of business community. How can we make life better for the people who show up and give of themselves to help support our dreams? That's very important. And how can those employers figure those things out? Well, first of all, just be transparent and ask the question. You know, take a look at the landscape in your company and what are the problems. If you need to do an anonymous survey, there's plenty of tools and resources out there to be able to do that as well. But hopefully as a leader you are engaged enough to kind of have that sense, but depending on your size sometimes it's a little bit harder to do that. But how can you bring in those resources that will help your employees to feel more connected to the vision that you have for your company? And a lot of times that is what leaders are truly seeking, even though they don't necessarily verbalize it that way. That is what they're seeking. So how can I get others to invest in my vision? Well, first of all, understand that they have their own vision. And have you asked them what their vision is for their own future? And how can that vision they have marry up with the vision that you have? You know, what we're seeing right now with the Gen Z workforce, which is anyone that you're looking from the age of 10 to the age of 27. And so they're in the workforce now. They are the ones that are coming in and they have a different set of expectations and not bad. I mean, I think that they just are more vocal. They're more of an activist in their expectations, but at the same time, they are showing to be statistically the quiet quitters. And what they're looking for in those workspaces, I believe, are all the things that other generations have wanted, but just didn't have, just didn't vocalize it for whatever reasons, because Gen Xers from your boomers, it's a little bit of different mentality from, hey, Gen Xers, achievement to, the boomers, it was a matter of survival. Every generation has had its thing. Where we are in today's landscape of the workforce is with all of those generations in there, it's very important to understand the visions that your employees have. But I say this to employers, how can you as an employer really expect something from your employees when you do not even know who you are, if you do not know where your values are? So let's first take a look at where your values are, take a look at where your employees values are, and how do those align, and what are the resources and tools, things that we can bring in that's going to help everyone to feel like that they're working towards a mutual goal for your vision together.
Values is a huge word, and I have witnessed, and I had 430 somethings living with me for a while. And, it's just dawned on me again. I mean, it's been revisited to me, reminded myself, I guess, that values, if you get clear on your values before, get your top 5, 10 values. And as a preteen or as a going into the teen years, you get clear on your values. Then what do you want? Who do you want to be?
Mm-hmm.
Not what do you want to do, but who do you want to be in this world? And get very clear on your values, because what I've noticed, and this is probably something in the workplace as well, then I don't know how to integrate it so much in the corporate world, but entertainment seems to have risen to the top value, because you can tell somebody's values by their time and their money. We used to say checkbook and calendar, but time and money. So where do they spend their time? And there's a lot of these little thumb movements on these screens, right? So, and they're gaming, or they're podcasting, or they're entertainment has risen to the, what am I going to watch, what I'm going to eat, what am I going to listen to, what I'm going to play, what am I going to have you noticed that as well? Is that something you've noticed as well?
It's definitely about that, but when we look at it in terms of what it is that they're seeking, so yes, we have to understand that, well, millennials, they remember the flip phones, but we are as a workforce now when it comes to Gen Zers. And I want to make sure that I say, from leaders, who may be a generation or two ahead or three generations ahead of that. And then again, making that relational to that unforgiveness and how can you overcome that? You need to understand the generation. We're talking about this new generation that's coming in and the different values that they have. They've never lived in a world that they didn't know it without a smartphone. They've always had information available at their fingertips. My generation, we had to go to the library and do a book report on an outdated encyclopedia. That's no longer the case for this generation, and it doesn't make them bad or any generation similar bad. It just makes it different. So it's very important to understand for your employees what is important to them. So that way, again, I go back so that you can see, okay, well, this is what's important to me as a leader. I want to have a viable business. I want it to succeed. I want to leave a legacy. Then when you're looking at leaving that legacy, you have to take into consideration the people who are going to help you to create that legacy into consideration of their values and making sure that they marry up to that. And, I could really get into the minutia of things with that and how we help different companies to figure all of that out. Everything from the beginning of the process, from the talent acquisition standpoint, all the way through the entire tenure from hire to retire, how you can do that. But it is very important, no matter the generation, no matter the circumstances. In order to be able to effectively communicate, you have to be able to effectively listen. And that's very important
Absolutely. And
leaders to do that.
I'm guessing the larger the corporation, the harder that tends to be.
Well, yes. And I will say, as someone who has been on the top of that rung in my corporate career, I was the chief human resource officer for a healthcare system. And what I found in my role, and because we had multiple locations versus the location of the corporate office, I was finding that I felt more separated the further up the ladder that I went. And I think, now as I look back on that, Charla, it's very important to remember, I have to remember, okay, that's not where I want to be again. So if I'm in that type of situation, what can I do to make sure that I always stay connected to all of that workforce? How can I stay connected and informed? How can I inform them? How can they inform me? I did a study recently on on the Gen Z workforce, and I studied several individuals. One of them actually works for a very major brand in Waco, Texas. And another one works for a well-known marketing company here in the Houston area. And when I asked both of them, what are you looking for in an employer? Their answers were almost verbatim, but they did say transparency, communication. I want to feel valued. I want to know that you have good training programs. You tell me exactly what it is that you expect of me and let me know how I can progress. The fact that they want that effective communication also incites that as employers, we have to understand that their communication is different from our communication. So how, again, can we make sure that we do trainings and teaching effective communications? So it's a multiple. I tell you, Charla, my job is interesting. It always keeps me on my toes. And again, instead of being a leader that's just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I've got all these generations that I'm having to deal with. And how can I do this? And, oh, there's so many bad things or negative things about this. It's not that. It's really about, it's just different. Okay. So get rid of the negativity, the negative thoughts, and frame it differently. So that way you can move forward. Because when you focus so much on the things that are negative aspects, it keeps you from seeing all of the good things. Like, hey, some of these other generations are excellent with technology. Whereas maybe there may be some gaps in some of the other generations. So what can we do to have them come in and help us in understanding that technology piece a little bit better? Because this is the world that they've always known. So it's just really in the way that you frame things. And that's the same way when we talk about forgiveness, unforgiveness and forgiveness in the workplace or professionally, that it's really going to be framing your mind to be able to move forward. What are some of the things that you need to do so you can have that clarity?
Well, my thing, every word matters, and you can change your world, you can change your life in one split second with one different word. Say who I am is, what you say after I am is who you are.
Yes.
Say who you want to be, speak what you want, not what you don't want. And all of those easy things to roll off your tongue, not as easy just to do. But
No.
so forgiveness. So you said you had an aha moment a few years ago that you had been walking around, and I had one as well, a bit split second transformation from bitterness to joy. You had one about forgiveness.
Yes.
And so let's get into that. Were you how did you learn that? How did you get to?
So, Charla, if anyone knows me, they know that I'm also I'm a faith-based individual. So every way that I live my life, especially at this point in my life, is based on my spiritual connection and relationship that I have with my God. And I've been a faith person for many years, all of my life, a good portion of my life since I was 16. But at the age of 30, I found myself being divorced, and now being a single mom. And I was living over 1,000 miles away from home, from my home in Northeast Texas, and just my life turned upside down. And so I had held on to the reasons of the divorce itself. It was very hurtful because this person was someone had been a part of my life for 15 years. And it wasn't how I had always envisioned my life to be. So it was a huge disappointment in the hurt that I felt to the core of my heart. But I held on to that unforgiveness and that bitterness for so many years. And it was 18 years later. And there's a lot of story in between that 18 years. But I don't think we have enough time for that part of it today. But regardless of all the things that I thought were okay that I was doing within those 18 years, the way I was living my life, my career was going great. My personal life, not so much. But hey, I thought everything was I'm making my own decisions. I'm an independent woman. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. 18 years later, in February of 2018, I was getting ready to pull out of my subdivision, and I had the radio on, and a song came on, and it was that, have you ever had that song that just takes you back to a moment in time? And being that I'm a musician, I'm a vocalist, songwriter, that's how I connect a lot of times emotionally. That song came on the radio, and then I heard it was like this voice just in my head and in my spirit that said, let me back it up. That song reminded me of that person. And, it's like I could sit here and I'm going to just go over the nostalgia. It's like sometimes we just want to resonate in the pain because we think, and this is what unforgiveness does to a person, it makes you think that that's okay to just kind of live in that moment of that pain instead of detaching ourselves from it. So it's like, okay, this voice in my spirit says you can either reach up there and turn that song off and give forgiveness, or you can continue to leave that song on and you can continue to live the life that you have. But I have a life so much better planned for you, but I need you to do this one thing. And it's as easy as reaching up there and turning the dial.
The split second.
In that split second, in that moment, And I'm going to be honest with you. I sat there probably for about a good minute thinking about that, because I knew if I made that decision, that meant that there would be no turning back. It means I'm only going forward. I cannot say that I'm going to forgive someone and just keep hanging on to it. So I decided to turn it off and turn that. And ever since then, and it was like my mind just opened, this clarity. And I looked back on my life and I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that I was that person. That's not who I was raised to be. That's not who I wanted to be. And just so many other things opened up in my life, the good things that I believe God has had planned for me. And at that point in time, I didn't know I would become a business owner, but now I sit here with you today and I look at that and I see how everything, and because of that one split second in time of that decision, had I made a different decision, would my life be different right now in this moment? Probably so. So I was able to move forward and really, truly give forgiveness and find myself even wanting happiness for that person, which is an
What a
amazing,
gift to
joyous
yourself.
thing. Yes. Yes.
Wow.
It
So,
is an
so
amazing
you
thing.
could have, so this, we like our pain. I mean, it seems like I wouldn't say that we like it. I say we're comfortable in that place. Not, we don't love it, but we are most familiar and most comfortable in the place of the pain, and this little vindictiveness or little revenge or this little we're carrying around this stuff.
Yes.
And they're oblivious about it, right?
Correct.
I mean, obviously they don't know you're furious and angry and mad and
Yes.
sending them daggers, all
Exactly.
What if you shift, split second transformation, change your words, change your life? What if you shifted to
Yes.
may you be blessed? And I say this a lot. If you just send blessings instead of daggers, send blessings and
Yes.
just may you be blessed. You don't have to love what they're doing. You don't have to love. And in my tiny little book we were talking about, I've got a forgiveness release that I
Yes.
have. And it's, I did what I did. I didn't do what I didn't do. I did all that I knew to do with what I knew at the time, just like you
Right.
did and are doing in your life right now. I love you. And just
Oh,
release it.
thank you.
And then another
Just love it.
another little saying I have in here is unconditional love, unconditional forgiveness, not unconditional boundaries. So it doesn't mean you have
Right.
to, engage or be engaged with someone that is not a good fit for you. But what if we just be blessed, go have a good life, and let
Right.
it go? What freedom did you experience, right?
Oh, it was an amazing freedom. And I felt so much lighter. And again, it's just the joy that you have in your heart. And in looking back on that, I was like, I can't believe I allowed that to take up so much space in my life. And then here I am, this person who for so many years harbored this unforgiveness. And I look back on, the things that maybe even I did in myself throughout those 18 years, just because you have this lack of clarity in your life. And for whatever reason, it's like, okay, there's things you've done in your life that aren't so great either. Who am I to hold on that? So I really decided that I could I could either remain as a victim of pain and hurt, heartbreak and loss. And what I thought was, oh my goodness, this dream that I had, or I could become a victor and experience something that was so much more amazing than what I could have ever imagined just by going this. And it was so much easier. I look back now, Charla, and I go, man, that was a lot harder to hold on to that than it was to let go of it. But it's just such an odd thing that we humans do. We become, it's almost like that it's a security blanket. We want to hold on to it.
it becomes our identity in a way. You know, we identify as the victim, you know, we're the ex and we were harmed and we were wronged and we were, you know, all of these things that
Mhm.
that just don't nobody care. I mean, I'm like, get over it. You know, nobody cares.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm sure people
Exactly.
were
Especially
kind of
not the
tired of
person that you're
hearing about
harboring
it.
the unforgiveness. They really probably don't care most of. But whether it's a person or a situation, I think that it's really important to understand that yes, you can learn from that experience, but take what it is that you learned in a positive way that you can move your life forward instead of holding you just there in that one space. And it's just amazing how unforgiveness is so deceitful. It is one of the most deceitful things that we can do to ourselves. It deceives you into thinking, well, it's okay. It's okay for you to be this way.
And
And
so,
it's not.
and a helpful first step is gratitude. So I do believe they go hand in hand, and I don't think you can have a actually happy life if you don't live in gratitude. So I do believe that that is a key to the first step of getting into letting go of the releasing the bitterness and the anger and the forgiveness and the issues. So gratitude, just what are you thankful for? And start it starts with that. It has to start with that. And then forgiveness is required.
I absolutely agree with that. You know, waking up and being, grateful for the experiences, even though sometimes those experiences did produce some pain to them, what was something that you can take from it that you can be grateful for in the here and now that you can move forward with? I definitely agree with you on that.
So yeah, and it's a common, I think it's a very common thread in a lot of the people I seem to have or attract just really heartfelt, great people. Alan Mikolai, who's in the Change book series that I'm in as well. We've got a mastermind going on. I'll just show it if I can. Just amazing book with Les Brown on the cover. Just came out recently. My version did, his a few months ago. But he's a common friend, and that's how I know you.
Yes.
And his message as a man in this world,
Mhm.
a message of love and unconditional love,
Yes.
and in the business world is so refreshing, and it all seems to tie in here together with what we're talking about.
Absolutely. I think, too, when I think about that professionally, can you show love in the workplace? And as HR, I must say, there's different kinds of love. Yes, that love, that gratitude, love can come in the form of gratitude towards your staff, towards your employees, towards your colleagues, to your business community, to your community in general. It's what we do to be a positive influence, to be a positive effect in those lives. How can we make an impact positively? And I think that is a form of love in itself when you are looking to make things better. But
You're, yeah, go ahead.
Alan, I was going to say, Alan is amazing because he has this ability just to always be positive and think about others before thinking of self. And that is also, I mean, when you think about loving unconditionally, that's what that is the love for others instead of, love of, just I'm always thinking about me. No matter what you have going on for that day, what is it that you can do to have an outpouring of that love that you can show others? And he is absolutely a great example of that. Very fortunate to have him as a business colleague and friend.
Great guy. So when we walk in, I mean, my just loving, this unconditional love, unconditional forgiveness, not unconditional boundaries. And the harder people are to love, the more they need it. So
Yes,
it does, so
absolutely.
when you walk out when I walk out, my message is I wear it. I wear this attitude
Mhm.
of love and generosity and caring, and people are very attracted to that. I make new friends at the grocery store, all these,
Oh, that's great.
and they're just attracted to it. So when you set out to, and what you said about others, thinking of others first before self, I think, I know I think it was Ziegler that had, everybody wears a sign, what's in it for me? What's in it for me?
Yeah.
What's in it for me? And
Mhm.
when you're always positive and happy, people do think you have an agenda, which
Mhm.
I don't have an agenda. There is no agenda. And so it's just, I'm just happy. I just want to share the
Mhm.
light, the love, the brightness, the smiles, the hugs, if
Yes.
possible. I don't like elbow bumps and I don't like self
Yeah.
checkouts.
Yeah. There's a little bit of a joke in our business community here that I'm the HR that hugs. I always tell them, I said, yes, but I always have a disclaimer before I do. I always ask if it's okay.
Well, my little
I'm
candy
a
bar hugs,
hugger.
I offer a candy bar to the checkout clerks. This was back in 2014, 15. This book came out in 17. Candy bar hugs. It doesn't take much to make a difference.
No, it
And
doesn't.
it
Just one
has,
little
it's
thing.
got, do you mind if I give, what's your favorite candy bar? And do you mind if I give you a hug? And the stories come out about that, right? So there was
That's
some couldn't
amazing.
receive it, some can't, and some
Mhm.
cried, and so, so it's
Wow.
it's just a small thing that makes that we can do,
Mhm.
and so it's been a really journey
Oh,
to
yes, it absolutely, I love that you do that because, you never know what a person might be going through, and that's what I say to our entrepreneurs, our clients is, look, you never know, just like you have things going on in your life and in your mind, you never know what your employees may have going on in their lives, and um, or just people in general. We have so much nowadays. I mean, we're stress and anxiety and depression being on the rise. It's hard. So why not just have that outpouring of love and generosity,
well, the key
for
to the
people?
key to overcoming a depression basically is action or doing something for someone else. That's one of the, and when you're in that, you
Mhm.
don't feel like it. So
Yeah.
if you know it, maybe you can perhaps practice it. But one of the,
Mhm.
and what you say, one of the persons in my book, one of the stories, a tiny little story in the tiny little book with a big message, a girl, I asked her if I could give her, I bought her a candy bar, and she said, "That's the nicest thing anybody's ever done for me." And I was like,
Oh, wow.
"Candy bar?" And then I said, "Do you mind if I give you a hug?" And my friend
Oh.
was with us. We gave her hugs, and she said, "You have no idea. I just found out my mom was terminal today."
Sometimes it's just the smallest of things, and that was just all it took was just a few minutes. What can you imagine that a few minutes of kindness can last a lifetime? And
Absolutely. And
that's what.
a candy bar doesn't cost much. And I'm talking
No.
when I was in really dire straits too, financially,
Mhm.
I still can do that. It's just something small, and it's not about the candy bar. It's about the
Yeah.
conversation, saying their
Right.
name or things like that, and reaching out. I do believe we're so connected to our devices now that we don't have as much human contact, and we maybe some of the younger folks don't even know how to
Mm. That is
smile and say
absolutely
hello and open the door, and the manners, just common
so
courtesies and manners are kind
right,
of
and
gone out the window.
I'm not, and I know, and when I make this statement, know that I'm not making it, and I know that it's a general statement. When we talk about in HR, we have to stay abreast of all the laws, all the trends, and we study we study everything that has to do with people, culture, and compliance, okay, in the workplace. And in this study of the Gen Z workforce, that statistically is what we're seeing is they just don't know how. They don't know how to ask for help, but yet they're not afraid to circumvent their managers to go ask that. So that's why it's so important on the human level as managers, just as people, to make sure that we are offering that connection and trying to understand how can we mentor, how can we help. Mentoring, setting an example of the way that we should be in that workplace. That's very important. So yes, there's a lot of people out there, they just don't know how to ask for that, but that is what we're seeing. And in HR, with what I do, is one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about doing what I do, is to be able to help educate other business leaders with that, because we want to make it a great work environment. This is our future that we're talking about. Hey, I look at it. These are the folks that are going to be taking care of us when we're older and can't take care of ourselves. So I definitely want others to know what empathy and kindness and showing love is. So I have to do that myself. But I wanted to go back and showing just a little bit of something. I want to encourage business leaders as well, or just people in general, when something has been put in front of you as a passion, or hey, you've started a business, don't be afraid to say yes. We all start out with our vision of what we want. This is the idea of what we see, because there's a lot of power in saying yes. There's a lot of power in saying yes to forgiveness. There's a lot of power in saying yes to help someone. When you Charla, asked that cashier if she wanted that candy bar, in a way, you were saying yes. You were saying, I'm choosing kindness. I'm saying yes to choosing kindness. There's so much power in the yes, but we always want to box ourselves in. We want to keep ourselves, oh, I've got this idea who I am and what I'm supposed to be and what my company is supposed to be. And that's great. You got to have a vision, but don't be afraid of the yes to positivity, of something that's going to produce something positive.
I love that. The number one saying, one of my number one saying that I have is, when intriguing opportunities present themselves and you say yes, things show up. So it's a little bit different context, but I'm a yes girl too. In fact, I have the yes lady was my YES, your essential sayings, I think, or whatever. I had it savings at one time for one business, but I was the yes lady. So, and I had a TV show called The Yes Lady with Charla A for a while. So yeah, so yes is a big word to me.
Yes,
and
it is.
it
And I
doesn't
will
mean
tell you,
boundary. It does. Yeah, we still have boundaries, right? So we're ending up the time. It's going really fast, and it's so funny to me that how fast it goes, and I just get so enmeshed in the conversation. So I want to touch one other thing on. I clicked on a song you were singing, and you have a voice that could be professional. You've got and you write and sing, right? So
yes,
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful
thank
voice.
you so much. Thank you.
And that is a talent that you carry with you. You don't have to put it in your pocket, right?
It's part of who I am. I've always loved singing. My dad started me singing, I think, when I was around 2 years old. When I could form a full sentence, my earliest memories are being, 2 to 3 years old and singing with him. And so it's not really what I do. It's part of who I am. This is where I tell people you can have multiple ambitions, just like you can wear multiple hats. You can have multiple ambitions. And that was an ambition in my life to be able to write music and to have it produced and available out there, is I have a story to tell. I believe everyone has a story to tell. And I've been very fortunate to be able to do that professionally. Just some of the things that I've, again, just because I said yes to it, and I was able to do some things in my life, vocally, professionally, as a singer-songwriter, that I never thought that this little small town girl from Northeast Texas would ever get to do, but I did, and I'm so very eternally grateful and humbled by it.
Wow, that's amazing. So you're are you published? Are you, I mean, do you have an album? Do you have a way to
So
find,
I
people
am
can find your
published.
music?
Yes, ma'am. You can find our music. My co-writer Darren Kelly and I do have some music that is out there. Our latest single is called Like Water Home. You can find it on all of your downloads. It'll be Like Water and then parentheses home. And that is the song. I tell everyone, if you listen to that song, it's basically the song of my life. It's the story of my life. If you want to know who Sonya Atkins-Goodman is, you can just listen to that song and it pretty much tell you. And everything in that song, my husband was actually my muse for that song. But then when I wrote the lyrics and Darren wrote the score for it, and when you're writing music, it becomes this evolution. One thing you started out to be, and then it can evolve into something so much bigger than that. And this song is really not just a love song. It's really a song of spirituality. It's a song about a person who was lost and then finally found their way, and just relating it to the things in their life that brought them that comfort. Home, we often say home is not necessarily a physical place. It's, home is in your heart. But if you had to name a place where home was, then where would that be? And how does that relate to the people in your life or the things in your life? So that's what that song is really about. And then there's some other stuff out there, but I would probably say that one is the one that I'm most proud of. A little fun fact on that particular song, we wrote and produced that in 2020, so the year of COVID. And we were supposed to go to Nashville to do some things in the recording studio, but because of COVID, we couldn't. So we remotely were able to do some things in the studio. The drummer on that song, for those of you who are, 80s babies like myself, you'll know the band Toto. The drummer, Shannon Forrest, is the drummer on that song. And then Justin Ostrander, who played a lot of the guitar and the mandolin and those, he is a Grammy award-winning studio musician. So when Darren told me these were the individuals that were going to be playing on this song, I couldn't believe it. I was just, Charla, I was going, how did I get here? How did this happen? But again,
Congrats on that. You
thank
just
you.
never
But
know,
Charla,
right? You
that's
just never know. So
yeah.
I hate to do it, but we got to go. It's done. It's the top of the
This is so
hour,
much
and we
fun.
have enjoyed our time. I
Yes,
don't
I've
think
had
it
so
probably
much
didn't get
fun.
live streamed because my computer died and I didn't know how to do it on the phone. So anyway, it's a just say yes, intriguing opportunities. And Sonya Atkins, Atkins-Goodman,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
Sonya.
Yes, ma'am.
And sometimes we have to spell our names. And
Yes.
what is Edge? Human Edge?
Human Edge Resource Solutions, and we're
.com, yeah.
yes, ma'am, humanedgeresourcesolutions.com. You can find us on all of the social media platforms. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're even on TikTok. We're out there on multiple platforms that you can
Well,
find us.
blessings to you, and thank you so much. I've had a great time, and
Thank
we
you
will.
so much, Charla.
I will. We'll be in touch, I'm sure. And
Yes.
you're a beautiful spirit, and it's not just for humans; it's for humanity. So thank you for
Yes.
doing all you're doing in this world. I'm
Thank
very,
you.
very,
Thank
very grateful for
you.
that.
I'm very grateful for you. Thank you for doing this and just trying to share with others, just so that we can also get that heart of goodness out there to everyone. Thank you so much for having me on your show today. It's really been a lot of fun.
Great. Well, and everyone, we'll see you next week on the Charla Anderson Show, collector and connector of fascinating people. And remember to always, always, always choose joy.
Parting is such sweet sorrow. The Charla Anderson Show. encouraging you to stand strong and courageous with bold faith, no fear, immense hope, kindness, and love, especially towards yourself. Visit CharlaAnderson.com for replays, blogs, and more on her ever-expanding website, as well as watch her live TV show on winwinwomen.tv, Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And so that we can continue learning together and growing this community of beautiful souls, we invite you to share the Charla Anderson Show with your circle of friends. Until we meet again next week, remember always, choose joy.